Finally, TNA made it official this week. They have announced their new TV deal, and it is with Destination America, which had been the rumored destination, pun intended, for the last week or two. Discovery, which owns Destination America, has secured the exclusive rights to broadcast what they call in the press release professional wrestling's top league, TNA Impact Wrestling, starting in January. They did not give a start date, so we don't know if they're sticking with Wednesdays or not. I'm guessing it'll stay on Wednesdays, but we don't know for sure. It's a multi-year deal, so it should keep TNA alive for at least another 2 years. No financial terms were disclosed, obviously, but I can't imagine they're getting as much money from them as they were getting from Spike. I mean, there's just no way. The partnership includes additional TNA series and specials. They don't indicate what those might be, but there may be more weekly shows beyond just Impact. In fact, I think it's a guarantee that there will be. Unfortunately, if you are a Canadian fan of Impact, the move means that you are out of luck. They will not be airing Impact in January up in Canada because of this new deal. However, they are working on a new deal, Dixie Carter said, to keep Impact on there, I guess on a different station. They're working on it. Hopefully they're not working on it the way that WWE is working on a deal to bring the network to the UK. Otherwise, you guys may be waiting for a while. So our Canadian friends will be without Impact for at least a little while. Now here's the deal with Destination America. Okay, now that it's a done deal, it's signed, sealed, and delivered. They may be available in more homes than Ring of Honor, but Ring of Honor airs on key affiliate stations. Okay, so think of Superstars or Wrestling Challenge back in the day, like where I live here in New York, it was on the local Fox affiliate. So it was Channel 5. You put your TV on, it was one of the main stations. It could be the local ABC affiliate in your market. It depends on where you live. You could argue that this puts ROH on the same plane with TNA, maybe even makes them the de facto number 2 promotion in the country. Or maybe it's Lucha Underground. You know, they're gaining ground. Their debut show on El Rey only did like 20,000 viewers, which sounds awful, although you have to, everything's relative. So El Rey it's a new network. They don't have as big of an audience as a Spike or a USA or even a Destination America, I'm guessing. But I read, I want to say it was in the Observer this week, that the Unimas ratings for Lucha Underground, which airs a Spanish-language version of the show on Saturdays, they did over 100,000 viewers for the debut episode. And then the second week, for episode number 2, they did 250,000 viewers. That's huge growth. So really, I think it's anyone's game right now, as far as who the number 2 is. Now, whoever the number 2 is, it's a very, 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 very distant number 2. But the battle for number 2, I think, you could argue, is wide open. I mean, I have Destination America on my cable provider here in New York. I still don't have Ring of Honor television. So for me, TNA is still number 2. Plus it airs in primetime, whereas ROH, I don't think, does in many markets. But that may not be the case with all of you. Maybe it does for some of you guys. On the one hand, it's sad to see TNA take a step back with this deal, because you can't tell me they're stronger now than they were 5 years ago. You know, you hear that question a lot on job interviews. You know, when I used to go on job interviews, I can't tell you how many times I heard that question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And it's such a bullshit question. I mean, what kind of answer are you supposed to even give? Well, I hope I'm breathing, number 1. And number 2, I hope I'm making a shit ton of money and I'm living in a fucking mansion somewhere. That's the real answer, but you can't say that. You got to be diplomatic about it. Then don't ask me the question. It's such a stupid question, but you hear it a lot. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And it's sad to think that 5 years ago, if you would have asked TNA that same question, I don't think they would have expected that they would be in a weaker state now than they were back then. And that's what makes it so sad. Are they as strong as they were then? They're not, no. On the other hand, the deal keeps them alive. TNA will live to see another day. I don't want to see TNA die. I feel like I'm one of the few people left reviewing the show on a weekly basis. That's my choice. If I wanted to end the Impact review for good, I would do it. And I may lose some listeners, maybe, but not a drastic number, a fraction of the audience. I do it because I want to. So I hope in the long run things work out for them. They'll get more programming out of it. That's great. But they need to grow their existing audience before adding more programming. And they're not going to start out with the same audience they had on Spike. I don't know if it'll be half, more than half. Maybe they'll only lose two or 300,000 viewers if they're lucky. We just don't know. But they're going to have to first build that audience back up before they could even think about adding new viewers. That's not going to be easy. I mean, 12 years later, I think TNA realizes that it's not going to be easy to add new audience, or else they would have done it by now. They would have done it with Hulk Hogan and Sting and Ric Flair and Kurt Angle and Mick Foley and Booker T and Kevin Nash and Scott Steiner and all the big names mixed together with the younger talent like a Joe, like an AJ Styles, like Bobby Roode and Austin Aries. The talent was never really the issue, and they had some of the biggest names in the history of the business, and it did nothing for them. It did nothing for them in the long run. But I made this comment on the podcast a few weeks ago, and I'll say it again now. They have their new TV deal. They may tape TV as early as next month to air in January. They need to lock themselves in a room for a day and map out what they want the future of this company to be over the next 6 to 12 months. And I'm not just talking creative. I'm talking everything. How they approach things, live events, talents they may want to sign, advertising and promotion, which has always been a weak point for them. They may already be doing that. I hope they are. I hope they are, because this is a chance to start fresh. I already heard that they're going to be changing the whole look of Impact. Logos, graphics, colors. Great. But that has to be part of a larger plan, because guess what? Changing the colors of Impact from blue to red and changing the logo all by itself is not going to do shit. It's got to be part of something bigger than that. You want to change the music and the logos? Fine, freshen things up. I wish they would do that on Raw. That's all they do when they freshen things up. They change the music and they change the graphics. The fucking set still looks the same. The basic look of the show still looks the same. And that's why that show is so stale. So that's what they need to do. I don't expect them to reset all of their storylines or anything like that, but it's a fresh start on a new network, and it has to have a fresh feel to it. And that doesn't involve bringing Dixie Carter back to television. That's the worst thing they could possibly do. But I have to say this. Dixie Carter was telling her people that this new deal is great because TNA will now be the focal point of the network. And that may well be true. I mean, there probably isn't much else on Destination America. I think they're probably in the clear. Yes, I think it's safe to say that TNA will be their crown jewel. But that's like being in a room with 300 people and then walking into another room that only has 30 people and saying, hey, now I'm the focal point. Yeah, but you only have 30 people in the room. And whatever they may say publicly, supposedly they never felt they got the full support they really needed from Spike, be it in the form of advertising or whatever. I hope that's not how they really feel. I hope that's just a rumor because it's nonsense, and I don't want to hear it. I mean, it's just another excuse for them to use as far as why they've never grown their brand. Spike TV gave them 2 hours of primetime television on their network when nobody else would. They moved them to Monday nights, live, to go head-to-head with Raw. They sent Hulk Hogan to a UFC show to talk to Joe Rogan to promote it. And they took out giant billboards in some major cities. I think they even took one out in Stamford, down the road from WWE headquarters. I remember seeing the big billboards here in New York. Spike reportedly has helped pay for at least a portion of some of the big contracts for guys like Hogan and Sting over the years to keep them with TNA. So I don't want to hear that Spike didn't help TNA, and they didn't promote TNA. Spike was more than generous to them. And they got booted off the network because of their own failures. So they need to own up to those failures and learn from them. I don't want to hear this nonsense about, well, we never got the full support that we deserved. I don't want to hear it. So this was the final first-run episode of Impact on Spike TV ever. They are off next week, back on December 3rd for the first of what should be 4, I believe, best-of shows, airing clips from throughout the year 2014. Spike TV President Kevin Kay put a statement out after the Destination America news came out saying that their run will come to an end on the December 24th broadcast. So that is the final date of Impact on Spike officially is Christmas Eve.